for joining us. I'm Amy Birch, a transportation engineer and consultant that works with NDOT to help facilitate the traffic calming program. And you heard a notice that the meeting is being recorded. We record these meetings so that if any of your neighbors were unable to join, it's posted on NDOT's website. So you can direct them there and they can get the same information. We're trying to make sure all the information is out there that we can about the project on Eulala Drive. I appreciate everyone taking the time this Saturday morning to join us and hear about a proposal. Let's see. And we have a chat box if you would like to enter any questions or comments in the chat box. You can do it that way, or you can unmute yourself and ask questions as we go along. And I'll pause throughout in case there are questions that come up. But again, thank you for joining. We're here to talk about the traffic calming project on Eulala Drive. Looks like I stopped sharing my screen on accident. Here we go. All right, so a little agenda about what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to go over the program, just the basics, how selected, and discuss any specific problems or solutions that you have thoughts on your street. We'll talk about the traffic calming tool. We will then review a preliminary design. It's just something we've put together based on field visit and look at your street, but it's a starting place. We want to get your input. That's sort of the purpose of this meeting, is to get some community feedback on our proposed design, and then we'll discuss next steps in the project. So this QR code is showing or linking to the Engage Nashville page for the Eulala Drive project. Internet seems to be not working very well. Okay. All right, we're back. But you can enter comments about the project on that through that website and learn more about this specific project. So I encourage you to go there and check that out as well. So some basics about traffic calming. The Neighborhood Street Traffic Calming project focuses on residential streets, and it's specific and our goal: reduce speed, vehicle speed on those residential streets. The 3 E's of traffic calming: education, enforcement, and engineering. So education, part of that is these meetings that we do and some other outward engagement about traffic calming. Enforcement, that's the job that the police department does, and they are partners in this program. But we know that the police cannot be monitoring all of the streets in Nashville, other things, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's just too much to do. So NDOT focuses on engineering, and that's specifically what this program does. So this infographic is showing the correlation between vehicle speed and a pedestrian's chance of survival if struck by a vehicle going those speeds. So at 25 miles per hour, which is the speed limit on most residential streets, a pedestrian has an 89% chance of survival if struck by a vehicle going that speed. But then as the speed goes up to 45 miles per hour, that chance of survival goes down to 35%. So it's very clear to understand the correlation between speed and severity of a crash. Also, if going at a slower speed, drivers have a greater chance of avoiding a crash altogether. Their cone of vision is wider, they have more time to react, but because they're going slower, and so that's another reason to drive slower on streets in Nashville, especially residential streets. This program that NDOT has is very popular. It's high. As of street was selected, had over 600 neighborhood streets that had requested traffic calming. So unfortunately, Eulala was one of those that was selected, meaning that you have the conditions that warranted the need for some traffic calming. And it was one of 25 neighborhood streets that was selected. Outside the program, we like to plug the hub, and this is for the services that you may need. Government is a great tool to reach the right department, get solution you may or question you may have. So you can reach it by dialing 311 or going to hub.Nashville.gov or there's an app you can download onto your smartphone and do it that way. But you get a request number, something you can follow up on if needed, but it just is a great way to direct the issue to the right department and get it resolved. So if your crash didn't get picked up or the street's not work, traffic signal's not working, it's great to use that tool. So back to traffic calming. I told you we had over 600 streets that have requested traffic calming in Nashville currently, and 25 streets are selected. So they're based on, the selection is based on a data-driven process that is based on here, and we collect a number of data points for every street that has requested traffic calming and then score them. So those streets that score the highest are the ones that are selected at that time, and we do 2 selections a year. So we collect the speed, we compare that speed to our desired 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, and that's worth 45% of the score. We also collect the daily volume, 25% of the accommodation. So if the street doesn't have sidewalk, or if it does have bikeways on the street or bus stops on the street or nearby, different accommodations where we would expect use the street for transportation other than driving. Look at the vulnerable user injury fatalities. So we look back at 10 years worth of data to find out if there's been a pedestrian or bicycle crash on the street, and that's worth 10% of score. Then we also look at trip destinations. Is this street adjacent to or close to a school, a library, a community center where nearby that be going from using the street. And so, as I said, those that scored the highest in that prioritization are the ones that are selected. And Eulala Drive was one that is mass selection. And so the second street we're talking about for this project is Eulala from Couch Grove Drive. And so I want to show you some of the data points that we have for the street that went into that measured 35th percentile speed as 34 miles per hour. I do want to, and the speed limit is 25. I want to explain what the 85th percentile speed is so you get an understanding of what we're talking about. This is a metric that transportation engineers, traffic engineers often reference, but what it means is that 85% of the traffic on that street over the course of a 24-hour period is going 34 miles per hour or below. But it also means that 15% of the traffic is going above 34 miles per hour. So with the speed 25 and the prevailing speed, so to speak, is 34. This this street scored relatively highly in the speed category. And then the volume is just under 5,000 vehicles per day, and that's the two-way volume, both directions over the course of 24 hours. This street does not have any sidewalk. Excuse me. It has 10.5-foot lanes. It has centerline striping that is kind of worn. It also has 5-foot bike lanes. Those bike lane markings are also worn and faded based on to the. So we noted that. And then it is classified as a collector avenue, which means that it's one of the larger residential streets. Essentially, it's collecting traffic from the smaller, maybe dead end or other streets that don't have as much connectivity, and it's bringing those to Eulala and then dispersing to even larger streets in the neighborhood. So this is a map of our section of roadway that we're talking about, and this is taken from our online tracker map. So this is of the meeting and design phase, which is where we are with the Eulala Drive. And then we are near some other streets that have traffic calming already installed, like Ocala Drive has the speed. I think there's some radar feedback signs on Brewer. So just to note that this street is nearby some other streets with traffic calming. Let's talk about our toolkit now. Our tool that we use the most often because they're very effective and people tend to like them after they're installed. And generally speaking, we feel like a lot of people who apply for traffic calming for their street, this is kind of what they're looking for. These are speed cushions. They are rubberized modular devices that are configured into a number of different ways. And they can be arranged on the street depending on how wide the street is, what the pavement markings are on the street already. But what they really do is they're vertical devices, and so you drive over them and they cause you to slow down as you drive over them. NDOT likes the speed cushions specifically because they're easy to install, but also because they are they allow for wider wheelbases like emergency vehicles, ambulances, fire trucks to straddle the cushions, whereas a passenger vehicle, which has a narrower wheelbase, cannot straddle them. And so they have to at least put one wheel on the cushions in order to travel over them. As you see in these pictures, they have markings on them depending on what the markings on the street are. Those white arrows, those are visible at night with your headlights. We also install them with warning signs like you see in the picture in the top left. On streets where there are bike lanes on the street, similar to Eulala, we can include some flexible posts like you see in the bottom right picture to help protect the bike lane, so we don't stretch the speed cushions over the bike lane, but we keep drivers from trying to drive around the cushions using those flexible delineator posts. When we install these, we usually will try to put them in a series, and we avoid driveways. We're not going to put them in the back of your driveway, but we put them in a series so that we kind of get that consistent speed along the length of the street. So, and our spacing is usually in the 400 foot. We have some issues with, or places where we can't install speed cushions and vertical devices like steep grade and hills and tight curves. So we're taking all that into consideration as we lay out a design for a street. Speed tables are made of the same material, and they're similar effect as speed cushions, but you see they don't have the gaps between to allow for the emergency vehicles to straddle those cushions. So it stretches the full length or width of the street. NDOT has done some before and after studies using these vertical devices where these have been installed. And so what these graphs are showing is how effective they have been in reducing speeding on streets. So the graph on the left is an average speed comparison before the cushions were installed. The average speed on these 6 streets we studied was 31 miles per hour. And then after the cushions were installed, the average speed went down to 22 miles per hour. And then the graph on the right is that 85th percentile speed we talked about. The before was 37 miles per hour, and then after it went down to 25 miles per hour. So really effective in achieving what we're targeting with these measures. Another tool we use in this program are radar feedback signs. They are, like the picture, you've probably seen them on streets nearby your street, but they register your vehicle speed as you approach and show you your speed. So if you're going above the speed, it will flash at you to remind you what the speed is and get you to slow down, because a lot of times drivers just don't know how fast they're going or recognize. So these have also been effective in Nashville in reducing speeding. So we will use these in places where the vertical devices aren't possible to install, like steep hills or curves or something like that. Also, some neighborhoods prefer this instead of vertical devices, so that might be part of the plan instead. And then we use them a lot on streets with higher volumes that aren't candidates for vertical devices. Another tool in our toolbox is some pavement narrowing. Sometimes we have a wide street that, unnecessarily wide, and so we can narrow the visual travel way, and it kind of reduces or speeding a little bit. It can also create a little bit of comfort for pedestrians if we can create a little bit of a shoulder on the side on streets that don't have sidewalks. Bulb-outs are a tool that we've used mostly in urban setting, but what it does is shrinks an intersection. So this is more of an intersection treatment, and we do this with paint and flexible delineator post usually. It narrows distance, tightens the corner radii, so turns are slower as you navigate through an intersection. So these pictures are of some pretty wide intersections that we're able to kind of tighten up with this treatment. Chicanes are another tool we don't use very often, but there are a few instances in Nashville where these have been installed. And essentially it's creating curvature using the lane markings on the street on an otherwise really straight street to just get some horizontal deflection as you drive along the street and slow down through those kind of tight turns and shifts lane shifts. So you need to have all the right, measurements in order for something like this to work. A lot of times it's done with shift from one side of the street to the other. It's not really an option for Eulala because of the width Eulala is, but and then traffic circles are another intersection treatment that NDOT can do some traffic calming with. And you may have seen there's a few instances in your neighborhood or nearby streets where these traffic circles have been installed. I think on Keeley, but essentially it's kind of like a roundabout where you travel counterclockwise around the circular island in the middle of the intersection. Again, we need all the right sort of dimensions for something like this to be installed at an intersection. The intersection usually needs to be pretty wide with some wide radii so that cars can still navigate around. But what happens is a lot of times when we'll install these, the traffic control doesn't stop change. So the side street will still have a stop sign where the this is not the case of the one on Keeley nearby, but then the main street will still have the through movement, the right of way. But even navigating around the island creates that horizontal deflection as they travel through. So they travel through the intersection slower. All right. I think I'll jump in and talk about this proposal, and then we'll see if there are any questions. Again, like I said, we've put together a draft concept for Eulala, but this is meant to get some feedback from those of you that live on the street to give us some feedback if we need to change. But we've visited the street, done some measurements, looked at the grades and so forth. So what we're showing here is 2 sets of speed cushions and then a radar feed in either direction. As you know, there's some hills on this street. And so that does limit us on where we can put the vertical measures. This section of Eulala is bookended by all-way stops on either end. So Ocala and Ash Grove Drive both have all-way stops. And so what we're showing here is a set of speed cushions. No, I should orient you to north is to the right of the screen. So this is Ocala on the right, and then Ash Grove on the left of the screen. And then so we have 1 set of cushions south of Ocala, kind of in more of a flatter area. This is about 400 or 500 feet here. And then as you approach this curve, put a radar feedback sign in that area facing the traffic that's going south. And then there's another radar feedback sign shown here as you approach the curve and hill for traffic that's going north. And then another set of cushions here about 2 houses in to the north of Ash Grove. So because of the bike lanes on the street, we would incorporate these white delineator posts as well to keep drivers from trying to navigate around the cushion and enter the bike lane to circumvent it. And this is a picture of what the radar feedback sign would look like. So I think I'll pause there and see if there are questions from you all.
Amy, this is Don.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Don.
Once these are implemented and constructed and ready to go, do you all come out the radar? I like that. You can hopefully measure the effectiveness of this solution over a period of time. Is that part of the follow-up plan to see how effective this is on the average speed and average daily vehicles using our street?
Mm-hmm. Right, that's a good question. The radar feedback signs do collect data, so we'll be able to pull that information. As a practice, we do so many of these streets, every year. We don't necessarily do after study of every street, but it's something that can be done if requested, if the neighborhood feels like there's, it's not effective or something like that. You can reach out and we could look into it, but for the most part, we don't do systematically or study of every street. We are doing some before after study of a number of streets right now, so that we have better information about how effective these different tools are. So, but yes, the radar feedback signs will be capturing volume and speed data. So it's easy for us to look that up when we have those installed.
And how long would the radar feedback devices be on the street? Forever or just a period of time?
These would be permanent install, so they'd be affixed to a post that's put into the ground. So they would, I guess, be forever, unless there was an issue of the location and we needed to, move it or something like that. But yeah, these are not temporary devices like the
Okay.
speed trailers you may have seen installed that are just installed for a permanent installation.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I had a comment in the comment box about or the white poles for the bike lanes. Thanks for that feedback. We can look and see if there's something else we can do in that instance. The what we don't want is too much of a gap that encourages drivers to go around, but if the cushions extend a little bit into the bike lane, that might be less desirable. So we can look at that. Thank you.
Yeah, Miss Amy, this is Councilman
Yes.
Nash. I think I'm correct. I'm assuming that the bollards, the flexible white poles, would only be installed where the cushions are, not
Correct.
line the whole street.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so maybe that is less trying to not as much undesirable, I guess, to just right. We would just put them at the location. So essentially, I think there might be 4 on the whole street. Any other questions or about this plan? Are we on the right track for those that
Yeah, this is done. I like it a lot. I think it will be a tremendous help in slowing folks down. I was really surprised on the volume, the 4,413. I don't know what unit of time, the measurement was based upon, but I was wondering, well, I lost my train of thought. I think that's, yeah. What was the unit of time that the average daily vehicle was done? Was that done over a period of days, weeks, or month to come up and arrive at that?
no, right. No, it was just a 1-day snapshot.
It was 24 hours. Okay, 1 day snapshot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it could
That's
be
right.
more, it could be less on other days. We just don't know. So, okay. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Oh, by
You're
the
welcome.
way, do you have a schedule yet as to when this project
Yeah,
might
that's a
get
good
underway?
segue, and we can come back to this if we need to, but I'll go to our next slide and we can talk about this program flow essentially.
Thank you.
So Starting on the left, this is an application program, so residents apply for traffic calming, and then and to date we've been doing it twice a year. There'll be application windows open in the spring and in the fall to apply for traffic calming, and then from there, once we get those applications for that round, we do our data collection and prioritization and selection. And so then we move into this neighborhood meeting. So that's where we are now, is the neighborhood meeting phase, and then design. So just like we've already talked about, I'm going to give you some updates about next steps during this meeting as well. But from this meeting, what we would do is go put together the detailed design plan that a contractor would take and use to install if and when this project moves forward. And so that takes a couple of months for us to put that plan together. And then we move into the ballot phase, which is NDOT's process to ensure that there is neighborhood support for the project. So the ballot phase, and I have a couple of slides after this to speak more directly about how that process works, but essentially if 66% of those that vote on the project are in favor of the project, then it moves forward into construction. So from design, then we have we have 2 months to do the design. Then it's a 6-week window for the ballot, so roughly 2 months there. And then it moves, if the project is, if the vote is favorable, then it moves into that construction phase, which can range from 8 to 10 months. We're working to condense that. And so it could be a little sooner, but our goal would be within 8 to 10 months after the ballot closes to have it installed. You see to the left that lighter blue shade. If we need to have a second, we can always do that. If there's, sometimes a neighborhood has a lot of comments and changes to the tools we use on the program. So if we need to have a second meeting, or attendance isn't very high, we can always do that if requested, or we think that it's needed. But from here, our process, I believe, would be to move into the design phase, and then we'll communicate with your council members and our applicant that the ballots are coming, and they would be done through the mail as well. So let's talk about the balloting. Like I said, we want to, where we're investing money in this program, want to make sure that we're doing something that's favored by the community and the neighbors that live on the street and that are most affected by the project when it's installed. So there's a balloting process. It's a postcard that comes in the mail. Each postcard and property along the street has a unique ID that'll be printed on that postcard. That's how we make sure we don't have duplicate votes that skew the results and that sort of thing. And then the voting is open for 6 weeks. So at the top, you'll see the date that the vote closes. So when you receive your postcard, go ahead and vote right then, because 6 weeks seems like a long time, but it actually goes by pretty quick. So you don't want to forget. You'll have that closing date so you can follow up and find out the results. We post them on the website, not individual results, of course, but just the percent that was in favor and percent that voted no for the project, and whether or not it passed or failed. So residents can vote yes or no on the project, and if 66% of the respondents to the vote yes, then the project moves forward. On this postcard, it links you to the website address is there. It also has a QR code you can scan and use to get to this online ballot form. So you'll plug in your property address, your unique ID, and then vote. It's really simple. At the top of the page, there's also a link to the plans, the design plan. So anybody that receives this postcard can go view that plan, so they can understand what they're voting on. That plan is posted. There's also a phone number on the postcard, so if anyone receives this postcard and wants to vote but has any complications with voting online, they can get some help from NDOT's program manager to make sure they vote. So that's the information about the balloting. And then the ballot zone, the program is for all properties along the street. So any property that touches the street within the limits of the project is eligible to vote and will receive a postcard. And it's residential properties, churches, and schools get one vote. So if we have owners with multiple properties, they still just get one vote. Vacant properties are not eligible. Businesses are not eligible. And of course, if during any part of this time, if you feel like you should have received a postcard but didn't, please reach out to NDOT. We do rely on the mail, and sometimes they may be delayed or so forth, but that's our best way to reach everybody that we can come up with. So, but we don't mind if you reach out, and I'll have my contact information. If you feel like you lost your card, you didn't get it, whatever, we want everyone to be able to vote that's eligible to vote. So that's the zone. And it goes to the property owners on the street. So I'm putting my contact information on here, and NDOT's traffic calming email address, NDOT.TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov. We also have like I mentioned at the beginning, an engage.nashville.gov/traffic calming website where you can find information about this project, the status. We'll, I believe, end up posting the plans there when they're ready to go, and forth. But you can also leave feedback through this website as well. But we also do these meetings so we can get feedback from you directly. So, and then this is NDOT's traffic calming website, TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov. It's a great resource. It's where we post all the design plans. It's where we have a copy of our program manual there, information about the toolbox. We post the meeting recordings there. So if your neighbor missed this meeting and wants to find out more information, you can direct them to this website. And we also post the results of the ballots, and our online tracker map is there, so you can kind of keep up with where this project is in the process. So I will pause there and see if there are any questions about our next steps. I want to make sure when we leave this meeting that we're all on the same page as far as, do we need to have a second meeting to show you the more detailed plan, or do you all want to move into the ballot as soon as the plan is completed by us? So I'll pause there, see if anyone has any questions or comments.
Yeah, Don, I know that there are some homeowners that don't have a computer, may not have a smartphone, but when they get a ballot, how will they vote? Can they mail that in to vote?
There is a phone number on the postcard that they can use to contact NDOT. There's not a mail-in, but we want to make sure people are able to vote, that so it is way, and that's, while we have the 6 weeks while it's open. If someone contacts, we can all mail someone a copy of the plan or anything like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, hearing nothing else, would we like to move forward with the balloting once the design is complete? Councilmember, how do you feel?
From my experience with the previous traffic calming programs, I think your plan as presented is pretty well finished. I think
Mhm.
as long as the residents there agree with what that looks like, I don't see the need for a second meeting. Again, I would defer to the residents there, but I don't see any major changes coming from another meeting.
Yeah, the grade and the curve kind of limits what we can do there, but we do want to try to have an effective plan. So I think we've put that together that way. All right, then. Well, what happens now is, like I said, we'll put that more detailed plan together that a contractor would be able to use if installed. I did want to mention that if there's a scenario where the ballot vote does not pass and we don't receive 66% or more favorable votes on the project, then we would put together a plan that doesn't include the vertical measures, but would still try to be effective. So it might include some more radar feedback signs, maybe one more in each direction, instead of the vertical measures if it doesn't pass the ballot. So I think that's what we'll do. When the ballots are ready to go, we will let your council members know, as well as the applicant. So that, when any of you get your postcard in the mail, talk to your neighbors, let them know to look for it so that they don't miss their opportunity to vote or toss it in the trash. Or during that time period, if you talk to your neighbor and they didn't get theirs, help them reach out to NDOT with an email or a phone call, a phone number that's printed on the card. And we can help facilitate that, because we do want people to have that opportunity to vote. And then once the voting is closed, we will tally that the next week and post the results on the website, so you can check in on it there. And we will also email your council member and applicant the outcome of that vote. So I appreciate everyone joining us this morning and providing some feedback on our draft plan. We will move getting it going and design finalized and the ballot sent. If there's any other questions. All right.
This is Don. Just to be clear,
Okay.
when might we expect the postcards to be mailed?
Yeah, that's a great question. Should be in about 2 months. So we're at the end of September.
Okay. Well, thank you, Amy.
Yes.
And thank you, Robert, for joining. We really appreciate your efforts on this.
You're more than welcome. Let me say this too. This program is very much resident driven and data driven. Your council person really has very little to do with this program. So the thank you goes out to you and your neighbors who put in the application and the work that NDOT's done.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you all have a great weekend.
Okay, we
You too.
appreciate it. Thanks.